Imagine this. You invest 10 years of your life into a relationship. You've shared dreams, built a life together, and trusted that no matter what, you'd always have each other. Then, one by one, small mistakes creep in. At first, they seem harmless, but over time, they become cracks in the foundation. And before you even realize it, the relationship is beyond saving. Today, I'm going to share the real story of a man who lost his 10-year relationship because of these exact mistakes. If you don't want to end up heartbroken, you must avoid these at all costs. But before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe, because this video might just save your relationship from disaster. Now, let's get into it. Meet David. He was in a committed relationship for a decade. He thought everything was fine, until one day, it was over. His partner walked away saying, "I can't do this anymore." At first he was shocked. Then he looked back and saw the mistakes he had been making all along. If only he had realized them sooner, he could have saved everything. So what went wrong? Let's break down the exact mistakes that destroyed his relationship. Mistake 1. Taking love for granted. Imagine this. You're in a relationship for years, maybe even a decade. Things feel comfortable. You've settled into a routine. You wake up next to the same person every day, share meals, watch TV together, and go about life. It feels stable. It feels secure. But here's the brutal truth. Comfort can be dangerous. This is exactly what happened to David. He was in a 10-year relationship and thought everything was fine. He assumed that because they had already spent so much time together, his partner would always stay. He thought love was permanent, something that once built could never be lost. And so, he stopped trying. No more surprises, no more deep conversations, no more reminding her why he chose her in the first place. At first, she didn't say much, but slowly, her energy changed. She laughed less. She talked less. She touched him less. David barely noticed. Until one day, she looked at him and said something that shook his world. "I don't feel special to you anymore." Now, let me ask you something. If your partner walked up to you right now and said those words, how would you react? Would you tell them they're overthinking? Would you brush it off and say, "But I love you, isn't that enough?" Because that's exactly what David did. And that was his biggest mistake. Here's what most people don't understand. Love is like a fire. If you stop fueling it, it doesn't stay the same. It starts dying. David thought time was proof of love, but time means nothing if effort disappears. If you stop making your partner feel wanted, they will start feeling unwanted. If you stop making them feel chosen, they will feel replaceable. If you stop making them feel loved, they will start feeling alone. And guess what? When someone feels alone in a relationship, they will eventually look for connection elsewhere, whether that's through emotional validation, deep conversations, or even another person who makes them feel special again. David realized this too late. The moment his partner walked away, he finally saw all the times he could have, held her hand instead of checking his phone, told her she looked beautiful instead of assuming she knew, asked her how she felt instead of assuming she was fine. But by then, the damage was already done. Most people think relationships end because of big fights, betrayals, or sudden changes. But in reality, most relationships don't die with a bang. They fade away quietly. One forgotten gesture at a time. One missed opportunity to connect. One assumption that they'll always be there. Until one day, they're not. David learned this the hard way. And if you're in a relationship right now, ask yourself, when was the last time you made your partner feel truly special? When was the last time you surprised them, even with something small? When was the last time you told them, in a real and meaningful way, how much they mean to you? Because if you can't answer that, you might already be making the same mistake David did. And trust me, you don't want to learn this lesson when it's too late. Mistake 2. Ignoring small issues until they became big problems. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a small fight with your partner, maybe about something as simple as forgetting to text back or leaving the dishes in the sink, and thought, it's not a big deal, they'll get over it? That's exactly what David did. David and his partner had a strong relationship, or so he thought. They had been together for 10 years, and over time small disagreements became normal. But instead of resolving them, he did what most people do. He ignored them. If she got upset about something, he'd say, "Why are you making a big deal out of this?" If she tried to express her feelings, he'd respond with, "Let's just drop it. I don't want to argue." If she was hurt by something he said, he'd brush it off with, "You're overreacting." Every time a problem came up, instead of facing it, he dismissed it. And for a while, it seemed like it worked. No explosive fights, no dramatic confrontations. Everything seemed fine. But what David didn't realize was that his partner wasn't forgetting. She was storing every unresolved issue like a ticking time bomb. Here's what no one tells you. Small problems don't disappear when ignored. They don't just go away, they turn into resentment. And resentment is like a slow poison in relationships. Every dismissed feeling turns into emotional distance. Every unresolved argument turns into built-up frustration. Every moment of being unheard makes your partner stop wanting to talk at all. At first, David's partner tried to be patient. She told herself, "Maybe I'm overthinking." She convinced herself, "Maybe I should just let it go." But over time, she stopped trying to communicate altogether. And this is where it gets dangerous. When your partner stops arguing, stops complaining, stops expressing how they feel. That's not a good sign. It means they've given up on being understood. One evening, David came home from work, expecting things to be normal. But instead, he found his partner packing her bags. Confused, he asked, "What's going on?" She looked at him, emotionless, and said, "I'm done, David. I don't feel heard. I don't feel understood. I don't even feel like I matter anymore." David was stunned. "What are you talking about? We don't even fight that much." And that's when she said the words that hit him like a truck. "That's the problem, David. We never fought. We never fixed anything. We just let everything sit there, unresolved, until I stopped caring." That's when he realized every ignored issue had turned into silent resentment. Every unresolved argument had turned into an emotional wall between them. And every time he said, "Let's not talk about this," he was actually saying, "Your feelings don't matter." By the time he wanted to fix things, it was already too late. She had checked out of the relationship long before she walked out the door. Most relationships don't end in one explosive fight. They end in a series of small, quiet moments where one partner feels unheard, unseen, and unimportant. David thought avoiding fights meant keeping the peace, but in reality, he was creating distance. The lesson here: never ignore problems. That little argument today, if you don't fix it, it will come back in a bigger, uglier way. That small misunderstanding, if you don't clear it up, it will turn into years of emotional disconnection. That feeling your partner is trying to express. If you dismiss it, they will eventually stop sharing their heart with you. So, ask yourself, are you ignoring issues in your relationship right now? Because if you are, trust me, they're not disappearing. They're growing in the background, waiting for the moment when it's too late to fix them. Don't make David's mistake. Talk, listen, resolve, before your partner stops caring and walks away forever. Mistake 3. Lack of emotional availability. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt completely alone, even when you were with someone? Sitting next to them, talking to them, sharing the same space, yet feeling like they're miles away emotionally. That's exactly what David's partner felt. And here's the worst part. David had no idea. David was what most people would call a good partner. He worked hard. He came home every night. He never cheated. He was always around. But there was one problem. He wasn't truly there. He would sit on the couch next to his partner, scrolling through his phone while she talked about her day. He would nod and say, "Yeah, that's crazy," without even really listening. He would say, "I love you," but his actions never truly made her feel loved. And over time, his partner started to feel something far worse than anger or frustration. She started to feel alone. One night, they were having dinner. His partner was talking, but David wasn't paying much attention. His mind was elsewhere: work, stress, random thoughts. Then suddenly, she put down her fork, looked him straight in the eyes and said, "I feel lonelier with you than I would be alone." Let that sink in. Lonelier with him than if she were by herself. David was shocked. "What are you talking about? I'm here every day, aren't I?" But that's when he finally understood. Being physically present means nothing if your partner feels emotionally abandoned. Here's what most people get wrong. Love isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up emotionally. You can be in the same room with someone and still make them feel invisible. You can respond to their words without actually hearing them. You can say you love them, but if they don't feel your presence, it's just empty noise. David thought that just because he was around, that meant he was being a good partner. But in reality, his partner felt more alone with him than she would if she had no one at all. And that's when it hit him. Love isn't about being in the same space. It's about being in the same moment. Emotional neglect doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, invisible killer. It starts with distractions, work, stress, social media, or just being mentally checked out. Then it turns into disconnection, where your partner stops sharing their thoughts and feelings with you, and before you know it, they stop relying on you for emotional support at all. And once that happens, the relationship is already on life support, because when your partner feels unheard, they will eventually stop talking. When they feel unseen, they will stop trying to be noticed. And when they feel lonely in a relationship, they will eventually leave. To find someone who makes them feel truly understood. That's exactly what happened to David. And by the time he realized it, it was already too late. Most relationships don't end because of one big fight or one major mistake. They end because one person slowly stops feeling emotionally safe, supported, and connected. David learned the hard way that it's not enough to just be there. You have to be present. It's not enough to just hear. You have to truly listen. It's not enough to just love someone. You have to make them feel loved. So let me ask you, are you emotionally present in your relationship? Or is your partner slowly feeling more and more alone without you even realizing it? Because if you don't fix this now, trust me, one day they'll say the words David's partner said to him. "I feel lonelier with you than I would be alone." And by then, it might already be too late. Mistake 4. Letting routine kill the spark. Let's be real. Most relationships don't end because of cheating, explosive fights, or betrayal. They end because two people slowly stop feeling excited about each other. That's exactly what happened to David. In the beginning, his relationship was electric, late-night drives just for the fun of it, surprising each other with small gifts, deep conversations that made them lose track of time, passion, excitement, and that can't get enough of each other energy. But as time passed, something dangerous happened. They stopped trying. David and his partner still loved each other, but their relationship had become predictable. Date nights, replaced by sitting on the couch, scrolling through their phones. Fun conversations turned into the same old routine talks: bills, work, errands, excitement, gone. They were still together, but they weren't really together. They became roommates, not lovers. And the worst part, David didn't even notice. His partner, however, felt the shift. At first, she tried to spark the excitement again, suggesting fun date ideas, trying to have deeper conversations, planning little surprises. But David? He was too tired. He was too comfortable. He figured, she knows I love her. We don't need all that extra stuff. And that's the biggest mistake people make, thinking love will survive without effort. It won't. Love isn't set and forget. It's something you have to actively keep alive. Because if you don't, here's what happens. Your partner starts to feel unseen. They start to crave excitement and passion, and if they don't get it from you, they might start wondering where else they could feel it. Here's how you know your relationship is losing its fire. You spend more time on your phones than actually talking to each other. Date nights feel more like obligations than something you look forward to. The playfulness and teasing you once had is gone. Physical intimacy becomes rare or robotic. You feel more like business partners than romantic partners. David's partner noticed all of this. She longed for the passion, the surprises, the excitement they once had. She wanted to feel wanted. She wanted to feel chosen. She wanted to feel like a priority. But instead, she felt stuck. One day, David came home from work. He expected the usual routine: dinner, TV, bed. But something was different. His partner was distant. So he asked, "Is something wrong?" She looked at him, tired and emotionless, and said, "Do you even see me anymore? Or are we just two people existing in the same space?" David was caught off guard. "What are you talking about? We're fine." But she shook her head. "No, David, we're not fine. We haven't been fine for a long time. And the worst part, you didn't even notice." That was the moment it hit him. She wasn't just upset. She wasn't just bored. She was done. And when a person stops feeling alive in a relationship, they start looking for something or someone that makes them feel alive again. People think relationships end because of one big mistake, but more often they end because of 1,000 small moments where one partner stops feeling desired, excited, and truly connected. David assumed his relationship was solid because it had lasted 10 years. He thought passion just naturally fades over time. But the truth is, it doesn't fade. It's just forgotten. And if you forget to keep the spark alive, someone else might come along and remind your partner what it feels like to be truly wanted. If you don't want to make David's mistake, ask yourself, when was the last time you did something exciting together? When was the last time you truly made your partner feel special? Are you making an effort to keep the relationship passionate, or are you just going through the motions? Because if you don't choose your partner every day, one day they might wake up and realize they're tired of not feeling chosen, and by then, it might be too late. Mistake 5. Not making his partner feel valued. Let me ask you this. Would you stay in a relationship where you no longer felt wanted, appreciated, or valued? No explosive fights, no betrayal, just a slow, painful realization that you no longer matter the way you once did. That's what happened to David's partner. And the worst part, David never even realized he was losing her. David loved his partner. He worked hard to provide for them. He never cheated, never disrespected her. He thought about her all the time. But here's the problem. He never showed it. He assumed she just knew how much he cared. He assumed their history together was enough proof. He assumed love, once built, would stay strong without effort. But love doesn't work that way. Love isn't just about what's in your heart. It's about what you express. If your partner doesn't feel valued, it doesn't matter how much you love them deep down, because eventually they'll stop feeling loved altogether. And once that happens, you're already losing them. How David's partner slowly started to feel unseen. It didn't happen overnight. At first, it was small things. She would dress up for him, but he wouldn't even notice. She would do thoughtful things for him, but he never said thank you. She would tell him she loved him, and his response, a casual, "love you too," without emotion. She never asked for grand romantic gestures. She didn't need constant attention. She just needed to feel like she mattered. But day by day, moment by moment, she felt less and less important in David's life. One evening, they were out for dinner. She looked across the table at David, the man she had spent 10 years of her life with. And suddenly, she felt like a stranger sitting across from someone who barely saw her anymore. So she asked, "David, do you even appreciate me anymore?" David, caught off guard, laughed. "Of course I do. What kind of question is that?" But she didn't laugh. "Then why don't I feel it?" And in that moment, David realized he had been loving her in his own mind, but failing to make her feel it in reality. Here's what most people don't understand about relationships. Love isn't just about existing together. It's about making each other feel cherished. Appreciation isn't just about thinking it. It's about showing it. Commitment isn't just about staying. It's about making your partner feel like you want to stay. David thought his partner knew how much he loved her, but love isn't a silent assumption. It's an active expression. And when he finally understood that, it was already too late. What happens when you stop making your partner feel valued? When someone doesn't feel valued, they begin to withdraw emotionally. Stop putting in effort because they don't feel it's reciprocated. Question whether they're in the right relationship. Feel lonely, even when they're with you. And eventually, they start imagining a life without you. Not because they want to leave, but because no one wants to stay where they feel invisible. That's exactly what happened to David's partner. And by the time he realized he had made her feel unappreciated for too long, she had already decided she was done. How to fix this before it's too late? Love dies not because of hate, but because of neglect. So if you truly love someone, show them. Say thank you when they do something for you, no matter how small. Compliment them like you did when you first fell in love. Surprise them with small gestures that show you care. Hold them, kiss them, remind them why they're special to you. Because if you don't, one day they might wake up and realize they're done waiting to feel valued. And once someone stops feeling loved, it's only a matter of time before they leave to find it elsewhere. In conclusion, David learned all of this the hard way, when his partner had already moved on. The truth is, relationships don't end overnight. They fall apart slowly, mistake by mistake. So ask yourself, are you making these mistakes right now? If you are, fix them before it's too late. And if you found this video helpful, hit like and subscribe, because these insights might just save your relationship. See you in the next video.